Well, welcome, Dhruv. If you would like to unmute yourself and introduce yourself, I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. That's important to me.
You pronounced it correctly. I'm Dhruv, and I'm coming from Illinois.
All right, welcome.
Hey.
We see your screen.
All right, awesome. So today I'll be speaking a little bit about technology and STEM. So I'm the founder of Contrush. We'll get into that a little bit later, but we'll be speaking on technology and STEM and how all of that can be used to enhance accessibility. So let's start off by first discussing what accessibility is, right? So first, accessibility is typically just seen as like, oh, let's make this sidewalk accessible for people with wheelchairs or this curb. But accessibility really goes further than, right? In an accessible world, people with disabilities shouldn't be having to hear ableist comments. So accessibility really has some kind of in its essence deals with minimizing ableism and maximizing inclusion, right? We want to make sure the physical structures are accessible, but also our society is accessible. We're accepting of people with disabilities. And I think the issue right now is that we're simply just not doing that. Just look at the statistics on the screen. 48% of sidewalks aren't accessible, 65% of curb ramps, more than 98% of housing units, 98% of web pages, and 33% of subway stations. And not only that, we regularly see ableist language being used. And so accessibility is this really big concern right now. Those with disabilities are the largest marginalized groups, but their needs aren't being properly met. And so this kind of personally led me to recognize this issue, right? A lot of people in my family face hand tremors, and around the globe, 300 million people also face hand tremors. And so that's the big issue that Contrush attempts to solve. So we noticed that even though there are self-stabilizing spoons and pencils and other products like that, the key issue here is brushing. Brushing is such an important thing, but people with hand tremors aren't able to do that. Current brushes, just manual and electric, are uncontrollable. If a person's hand is shaking, they're not able to stop the tremor. They're unadaptable. They don't adapt to users' tremor. And lastly, they're unsafe. The bristles that they have here, they can significantly impact people's gums and just chewing habits at large. So with that, we ended up creating Contrush. So Contrush is the world's first anti-tremor toothbrush. And so we can, I can talk a little bit more about what Contrush is. Contrush is composed of a couple of different elements. First, we see the brushing bristles. So our brushing bristles are composed of a novel mixture of silicone and nylon. And we did that after some research, and we found that, hey, that's the most beneficial compound. It leads to maximize safety, and it minimizes some of the harms that we're seeing with traditional electric toothbrushes. So that's a change we made. Another big feature we have here is our adaptable entire brush and bristle mechanism. Specifically, we have an anti-tremor mechanism. I'll get a bit into that, specifically what composes that a bit later. But what that does is that if a user's hand is shaking, let's say left and right with some sort of speed, our motors put the opposite force on the toothbrush that allow it to kind of get rid of the tremor, get rid of the tremor's impact. So we're getting rid of the tremor. And then we have a couple of accessibility features. Our brushing handle is bigger so people can have a better grip over it. And we also have an LED light at the brushing handle. So people can see even if their hand's shaking, they can see specifically where they're brushing. And so we have two images on the screen right now. The first one, the bigger one, is a 3D render of our product. We did a lot of CADing with it. The second picture is an actual physical print. We 3D printed it. The green stuff right there is the paste that we put on it just for the picture, but that's, we have a 3D render and we have specifically a imprinted product as well. So a little bit into the technology, I won't get super into it just to not confuse you all, but basically how it works is that we have three key components. We have an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and a transducer that measures the angular displacement. So how much does a tremor move left and right? The gyroscope is measuring how fast it's doing that. And lastly, an accelerometer is measuring the speed at which the movement is happening. All of those measurements are then converted into...
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but I am imagining all of our friends around the world translating in real time. These are a lot of new words. Can you just slow down just a tiny bit? I speak English natively and I can keep up with you.
Yeah, I can slow down, my bad for that. But we have those different measurements that we're doing, and then we convert those into specifically a charge. So if there is some sort of kind of left and right force, that was the number before, but now we're going to make that into an actual charge. And from there, we take all of those charges and we take all of those measurements and put them into action. So we put that into the motion activated motor. The bristles are canceling out the tremors effect. And then the most important thing, that doesn't happen once. It's a repetitive cycle. So it continues to happen in real time. And every single user's tremor is effectively responded to in that manner. So we started with Contrush, right? So that's the big product here, but we recently also expanded into another product that we're working on right now, Anchor. And so Anchor deals with a similar issue, but we're taking a unique approach to it. So Contrush was a self-stabilizing toothbrush, but then we noticed that, hey, the problem's not only with toothbrush, it's with therapy at large. People with hand tremors have to spend a lot of time doing therapy. The current therapy, though, isn't effective. We're seeing that based on the interviews we did, a lot of people are saying that, like, hey, therapy is not effective. I have to spend special time on it. It's too costly and it's not adaptable. So we created Anchor for that. So basically what Anchor is that's a game-based digital health tool with adaptive game modules that help to correct hand tremors. So long story short, we have a couple different game modules. Some questions might be like, hey, right on the screen right now, like question 14, you have to move the diamond into the circle. So you have to tilt the phone and things like that. So continuously you do that, your hand precision is going to get better, your fine motor skills are going to get better and things like that. So that's the big kind of philosophy behind Anchor. So we have a diagnostic test. And so what the diagnostic test does is that it allows Anchor to diagnose a tremor. So like it specifically allows Anchor to see like, hey, the tremor's moving in this direction or it's with this speed. And so our game modules would then be built off of that. Second, as I mentioned before, we have those adaptable game modules. We have Jungle and Jaguar, Travel the Desert, and Fork and Spoon, and a lot of different game modules like that. And then lastly, we have the point system, right? So if you use your practices, they'll get a certain amount of points. The big goal here is that they want to continue to practice until they're able to get to some sort of outcome. Next, we noticed that like, hey, we're doing a lot of work. Contrush is doing this, and then Anchor is doing this. But how are we going to engage people to do what they're doing? We want to make sure that people across the world are able to create innovations supporting those with disabilities. And that's where Ability Hacks came in. So our nonprofit AblifyNow, which is kind of the parent organization of Anchor and Contrush, we decided to organize Ability Hacks. And so what Ability Hacks was, is it was a 36-hour-long hackathon that had people from all across the world. We had 200 plus registrants, and they came together in different teams and they created a lot of different products. So we have a bunch of different products on the screen right now. We have PhonoFace and Classify and Don and Cognifit and a lot of different products, and each one of them is related to disabilities in some form. For example, PhonoFace supports people that might be deaf. Cognifit supports people that have intellectual disabilities. Classify supports people with autism that want to get employment and things like that. So we're seeing that Ability Hacks enabled us to actually engage a lot of people. Contrush and Anchor, sure. But now we're able to actually connect with people. We're able to engage them in the movement with disability equity. So that was a big kind of guiding philosophy behind Ability Hacks. And then AblifyNow, the parent organization, we continue to do a lot of advocacy, post educational content on Instagram, and our team of about 60 changemakers come together every 2 weeks and we do a lot of impactful work. So that was just a quick kind of explanation of what we've been doing. We're noticing that technology in STEM has really allowed us to take disability equity in a new direction. We're able to create new inventions. We're able to come to new conclusions. We're able to push disability equity forward. And so we really appreciate being able to present here, and we look forward to answering any questions y'all might have.
Wow. Ew.
Thank you very much. That was very, very interesting. The first step that a lot of people sure get aware of how little things in our everyday life that for us are given for granted, for other people are so difficult. And by just using one of the things that you make available to them, you can make such a big difference. So it is really great. If you don't have somebody in your family or a close friend, sometimes you don't realize how little things can be so hard for so many people.
100%.
I have to say, first of all, your empathy is off the charts. I'm curious how you came to this realization. And secondly, I sit on 2 boards that deal with functional ability in 2 different of the sciences, the geosciences and physical therapists. and my father has Parkinson's. So this is a game-changing bit of research that I would not expect to come out of a junior in high school in the United States. Dude, where did this come from?
Yeah, I think a lot of I think what Belen was mentioning too, a lot of the kind of what we were thinking came out of just seeing our family members struggling with it. I think during the pandemic, I came home from school and just seeing my father, uncles, and grandparents have these hand tremors, seeing them struggle with something that we take for granted, just as simple as brushing, seeing them struggle with that really kind of ignited us to be like, hey, this is an issue that a lot of people aren't recognizing, but 300 million people across the world with hand tremors are facing that. So that's where Contrush came in, that's where Anchor came in, that's where AblifyNow and Ability Hacks. We kind of started with this one invention of the self-stabilizing toothbrush, and since then we decided to expand into all the different issues that people with hand tremors and disabilities at large encounter.
So your content is stellar. Stellar. Where you need focus is your speech. You don't realize how quickly you talk. You really don't realize how quickly you talk. You're very passionate and you're extremely intelligent. You have to wait for people. This is the ironic thing. You have this concept of how disabling it can be for neurophysical reality for people, but you're not giving people time to process your words. Mm-hmm. You're so quick. You're so smart. And I need you, your next horizon, to focus on how you hear yourself. I'm talking right now in a speed that is easy for anybody who does not speak English natively to translate. This is what you need to be at. Mm-hmm. It will make you far more effective as you continue your undoubtedly effective career across the globe. You need to give people time to think about what you just said. Pause.
Thank you.
It is your one Achilles heel. You talk very quickly. I don't know if you live in a very large city where people talk very quickly, but it is a definite thing that you need to pay attention to. Everything else is on point. Focus on having people hear you.
Yes, it was awesome. I'm sure you wanted to give us so much information that because you were so passionate about it, but sometimes it is worth just giving us a taste of it and then give us a link or make an appointment for some other time and then explain it further. Just leave a taste and then explain it in more detail at another occasion. Okay, but it was awesome. It was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we leave, because we have another presenter coming on, how do we find out more about you online? How does our YouTube community find out more about you? And how do they support you?
Yeah, so obviously you can search up some of the inventions we're doing, Contrush, AblifyNow. You should be linked to our website. If you ever wanted to get in contact with us, you can definitely send us an email, ablifynow@gmail.com, ablifynow@gmail.com. Send us an email. We'd love to have a chat with you. So yeah, we'd love to have your support just as long as, just simple as just being aware of what we're doing. That goes a long way, spreading word. But obviously, send us an email. We'd love to have a conversation.
Can somebody please write the address on somewhere in the chat or something? Because yeah. I didn't have time to write it down, and I'm sure a lot of other people would like to contact you and have more information because the project is really, really amazing. And it's going to help so many people around the globe.
Boom. Thank you, Dhruv. I had it wrong. All right. Thank you, my friend. Fabulous presentation.